إن الحمد لله نحمده تعالى ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره الكافرون. نحمده تعالى على نعمائه لا نحصي ثناء عليه، وكما أثنى على نفسه أو أثنى عليه رسوله عليه الصلاة والسلام نشكره ولا نكفره، نؤمن به ونتوكل عليه، هو مولانا وعلى الله فليتوكل المؤمنون. ثم أما بعد، أحبتي في الله. Before I start my khutbah, Abu Mahmoud Ziyad reminded me in the office that I should remind all of us that when you attend the Jum'ah, you are to be totally focused on the Jum'ah, attentive to the talk in the sermon. And that if you are to play with your phone or anything else, it violates your salah. In fact, even if you tell your neighbor that he needs to be silent, you have violated your prayer. So every moment that you are sitting and listening to the khutbah, you're being rewarded and as if you are in your prayer. So inshallah, I will try to remind ourselves constantly until it becomes a habit of just paying attention. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. On another note, before I also start the khutbah, a few brothers approached me this week, disheartened and saddened and upset that I, in my last week's khutbah, mentioned countries, and they felt like the people of those countries were attacked. I want to emphasize what I mentioned last week were the regimes of those countries, not the citizens of those countries. By any means, by no means, the citizens of those countries have nothing to do with the regimes that are leading them. In fact, even in the West, the citizens of the Western countries that are not Muslim countries have shown to us that they stood for justice and were marching in the streets to free Palestine, and students in universities, all sorts of colors, came together for humanity. So my criticism when I mentioned a few countries as Jordan or UAE or others, I was addressing the governments, the regimes that are representing those countries, because they have failed us and aligned themselves with the devil. I just wanted that to be clear, because maybe what I have said last week was misspoken, or I failed to make it clear my intent. And I do not wish, by me standing here to say something and I leave someone hurt in their feelings thinking that I meant something else. And I'm man enough, if I am wrong, to say I'm wrong, and I apologize. So if by a slip of the tongue, which I don't recall, but if I did, then my full apology to all of those that were offended. But there is no apology for what I said towards those regimes of those countries. And if your pain is to defend those regimes, I have no apology for you either. Now back to our today's khutbah. Millions of people, as I said last week, are marching towards Mecca to do their Hajj. And as we know, Al-Hajj is a pillar of Islam. As the Rasul ﷺ stated in the authentic hadith that we all know, that Islam is built on 5 pillars. And the last of those 5 pillars, he said, وَأَن تَحُجَّ الْبَيْتِ إِنِ اسْتَطَعْتَ إِلَى ذَلِكَ سَبِيلًا. You are to do Hajj, to march towards Mecca for Hajj, if you have the means to do so. And Allah Ta'ala have mentioned in the Quran Al-Kareem, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. It's mandated on all humanity to do Hajj if they have the means to do so. And our scholars have talked about this obligation. When is it due? They said the moment that you have the means, it's due. The majority of the ulama, Jumhur al-ulama, they said the day that you have the means, and the means that we're talking about is financially as well as security-wise. أمن الطريق وحاجة الناس للطريق من الطعام والمركب وغيره. So if you have the ride and the means to get there, and it's secure and safe for you, then the moment that you are capable is mandated on you. And the reason why the Jumhur ulama say that, because you can die at any time and you have failed to do your Hajj. And the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said in the Hajj, whoever dies and they have not performed their Hajj, then let them die as they wish, a Jew or a Christian. Now repeat that. Whoever dies and they have not done Hajj and they were capable of doing Hajj, the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, then let them die as they wish, Jews or Christians. There is no excuse for us to do Hajj if we're capable. And let me tell you from personal experience of someone that have done 38 Hajj in his life. They were much easier to get there when I started than it is today to go. Regulations have changed, permits have changed, financials have changed, and every year they're only getting more complicated and difficult. So if you're able to go to do Hajj, do not delay. Who knows what comes next year? I was told by one of our members in this masjid, when I was asking him how come he has not done his Hajj and he is financially capable, he was saying that he was preparing himself to do Hajj, except his father asked him to delay 1 year. Then COVID came, and it was years. May Allah Ta'ala protect him, for he is on his way there. But it came years later. Lucky enough, he still had a chance. So if you're able to do Hajj, then do not delay. Maybe this year has passed, but schedule yourself for next year, inshallah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, for many of us, Hajj is a spiritual journey. I think all of you probably would say so, right? That Hajj is a spiritual journey. That's why we say, or the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Man hajja wa lam yarfuth wa lam yafsuq, raja'a kayawmin waladathu ummuh." Hey, those who do Hajj and they done no wrong or foul, they return like the day their mother gave them birth. Meaning they will be forgiven all of their sins, and I believe that's the peak of spirituality. Many of us go to Hajj to seek that calmness and peace, the internal peace, knowing that they stand in front of the Kaaba and they're the closest they can be to history. For the Kaaba is the first house ever to be built on earth. إِنَّ أَوَّلَ بَيْتٍ وُضِعَ لِلنَّاسِ لَلَّذِي بِبَكَّةَ. It is the first house ever built, not just by humans, it was built by the angels. It was only rebuilt by Ibrahim and his son, and is constant, the center of the universe. So for many of us, we go for spirituality and we build our iman by looking at the Kaaba, and also by stripping ourselves from all the luxury of life, where we actually mimic the shrouds of death through the towels that we wear. which all wear that white color that resembles the shrouds of death. No netted clothes is on us, no perfume can be put, no nails can be cut, no hair can be trimmed. And throughout that journey, you have totally escaped from earth and earthly matters and values. And all you're declaring is labbaik Allahumma labbaik. I answer your call time and time again, Ya Rab. And you're going from one location to the other. Not one thing should be mentioned by your tongue about the dunya. It is all about the akhirah. You sleep on bare grounds. You're sheltered by the clearness of the sky. The heat reminds you of a day where there's no ACs to calm it or cool it. You're reminded during Hajj of an enemy that does not halt from deceiving you. And a symbolic throwing of pebbles to declare that there's no love being lost here between you and the shaitan. You stand on Mount Arafah hoping that you leave with the reward that you're promised. For many of us, it's a spiritual journey. But then, I saw the speech that the Rasul ﷺ gave in Arafah. And if you look at that speech, that sermon, that khutbah al-wada', you noticed it was something else. Its approach was not about building your iman, even though iman is all through it. But it's about building this earth. It's about declaring the rights of man, the rights of humanity, the equality of all. It's a sermon that he specifically mentioned that the Lord of all is one. So we do not become confused on which direction to face, in which source that we seek our support and help in needs. Which prayers do we direct ourselves to? Inna rabbakum wahid. Your Lord is one. That settles our heart from all confusions of gods and deities that mean nothing, except the only one that controls all. You'll find in his khutbah, he established a reference, a resource of legislation that will govern humanity to be its best. He said, تَرَكْتُ فِيكُمْ مَا إِن تَمَسَّكْتُمْ بِهِمَا لَن تَضِلُّوا بَعْدِي أَبَدًا كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَسُنَّتِي. By following the Quran and Sunnah, no nation will go astray. No nation will falter. The diseases of nations of divisions will be mended. The laws will never be unjust. Justice cannot prevail except through the Quran and Sunnah. Through this khutbah, he unified our constitution, our way of life. It is the way of the Quran wa Sunnah. He focused on the person in this khutbah. He said, رَبُّكُمْ وَاحِدٌ وَإِنَّ أَبَاكُمْ وَاحِدٌ كُلُّكُمْ لِآدَمَ وَآدَمْ مِنْ تُرَابٍ. Your Lord is one. Your Father is one. All of us are from Adam. All of you are from Adam. And Adam is from dust. The equality of all humanity is declared in this khutbah. He said, لا فضل لعربي العجمي ولا لأبيض على أسود إلا بالتقوى. There is no supremacy for an Arab over a non-Arab, or for a white over a non-white. The only measurement and scale of favorism is taqwa, the fear of Allah Ta'ala, the iman. We're all equal. In another narration he said, like the teeth of a comb. It's all straight and the same. The disease of discrimination and racism was abolished in Hajj. In this sermon, it was abolished. Just like in Hajj, all laws except Islam were abolished. All favorism of dunya, of wealth or colors, were abolished. He said in this khutbah the equality amongst genders. And remember this sermon was given at a time where the female was only considered as a product that is owned by man. But he established rights between the two genders. He said, إِنَّ لَكُمْ عَلَى نِسَائِكُمْ حَقًّا وَلِنِسَائِكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ حَقًّا. You have rights over your women as they have rights over you. Again, for many of us, Hajj is a spiritual journey. But the Rasul ﷺ, in his greatest speech, in his 23 years, was not talking about spirituality. He was talking about humanity and governance and equality. The things that we have forgotten as Muslims. We have focused on prayers. Not one word was mentioned in this sermon about prayers. We have focused about the excitement of iftar in Ramadan. Not a word was mentioned about fasting. In this khutbah, he talked about the unity of all. He said, Al-Muslim, اعلموا أن كل مسلم أخو المسلم. Every Muslim is a brother of another Muslim. There's no ethnicity mentioned here. Not a word. 100,000 people stood in front of the Rasul ﷺ on the day of Arafat. Those who came from all corners of the world of that day. And he looked at them and he said, a Muslim is a brother of a Muslim. And he said, beware not to return away from me, ضلالا, lost, or كفارا يضرب بعضكم رقاب بعض, where some of you will kill the other. How can one kill a Muslim brother? When I said last week, Hajj today has very little meanings in our lives, it's because at the same time people gather, there are Muslims that are helping the enemy to kill another Muslim. If a Muslim is not allowed to kill his brother, how can a Muslim support a non-Muslim in killing a Muslim? How shameful. The Rasul ﷺ talked about the economy of a society in this khutbah by prohibiting interest. riba. Because riba is just the rich taking the advantage of the poor. Is handicapping those who cannot afford to make a living to never make a living, through stripping them away at the moments of need, of their freedom, of their wealth. That's what interest is. It's piling the wealth into the hands of few by taking the advantage of the majority that are in need. And those who deal in riba are declaring war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet. And in fact, there's only two sins in Islam that are a declaration of war. The first is you declaring your hatred and animosity towards a Muslim as an enemy of yours. من عادى لي وليا فقد آذنته بالحرب. And the second is dealing with interest. And I know this is a topic that many do not want to hear. I spoke about this last night. And I figured by morning I will be on the tongues of many that I'm attacking many of our brothers that are doing business in our city. Because for the many, interest is their way to make a living. In the moment that you're dealing with haram and making your living, is your declaration that Allah Ta'ala is not the Razzaq. He's not the provider. You have to find your own means to provide for yourself by doing it by haram. If you are not content and believe that Allah Ta'ala is your provider, then there's a problem with your faith, as well as you are also a source of problems for humanity. Because the Rasul ﷺ, by prohibiting interest, is setting a standard of equality in economy. He's allowing someone to be relieved from his hardship by goodwill. Interest takes the way of the goodwill. In the khutbah, the Rasul ﷺ also focused on keeping the community united by solving our problems. The truth of the fact is we will have our conflicts. But he also focused on the solution of those conflicts, so we don't linger in our conflicts. And if we go back to the Quran and Sunnah and those who have knowledge, will find our solutions. To me, I see this khutbah as an opportunity to declare for humanity what Islam truly is. Not what the rituals of Islam is. Hajj was not a spiritual journey for the Rasul ﷺ. It was a partial spiritual journey. But it was a convention of declaring human rights. All these democracies in the world cannot echo, in reality, the words of the Rasul ﷺ during Hajj. You don't go to Hajj to come back a better worshiper. You should go to come back a better man. أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده تعالى ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. ثم أما بعد. For all of us that were not blessed to go to Hajj this year, I'm sure many of us are going to do Qurbani. And I have been asked what is needed for so. For every family, you can do one Qurbani of either a lamb or sheep, or 1/7 of a cow or camel. The sunnah is that if you intend to do so from the beginning of the greatest 10 days of the year, you also do not trim your nails. It's almost like trying to replicate what people are doing over there in Mecca. And these 10 days are among the greatest blessed days of the year. Al-Ashr al-Hijjah. You increase in your ibadah. You prep yourself to be part of a society. To even your qurbani, you're dividing it into 3, where you're feeding yourself, gifting 1/3 of it, and donating the last third. Again, it's a society of building. Islam is a society of building. Again, Islam is a society of building. So to all of those that are stuck with the rituals in the arguments and debates of halal and haram of our daily ibadats, that's not what Islam's core is all about. And ibadat are fuel to make us better. Our salah is a fuel to help us refrain from haram. That's what the ibadats are. They're fuel. But Islam is life. Is life. Islam is life. Meaning, I am part of everything that happens in the society. I am part of what the society should be. And when I see wrong, I see what I can do to fix the society. Whether I am doing it in my masjid, or engaged in my community, or engaged in my society at large, politically or culturally, or just adopting the street. That's what a Muslim is. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة هي لك رضا ولنا فيها صلاحا إلا أعنتنا على قضائها ويسرتها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في غزة يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصرهم نصرا مؤزرا. اللهم انصرهم نصرا مؤزرا. اللهم عليك بأعداء الدين. اللهم اجعل سلاحهم عليهم دمارا. اللهم اجعل سلاحهم عليهم دمارا. اللهم اجعل سلاحهم وكيدهم عليهم دمارا. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا. اللهم اكتب لإخواننا في الحج حجا مقبولا وسعيا مشكورا وعملا متقبلا، وعدهم إلينا كيوم ولدتهم أمهاتهم. واغفر لنا يا رب العالمين ووصلنا إلى بيتك الحرام إنك سميع مجيب الدعوات. اعلموا أحبتي في الله أن الله تعالى يقول إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. ثم اعلموا أن الله تعالى يقول إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله العظيم الجليل يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله أعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة.
أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استووا اعتدلوا تراصوا. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. اللهم بارك. اللهم بارك. اللهم بارك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله العظيم. استغفر الله العظيم. استغفر الله العظيم. استغفر الله العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. I'm not going to ask you guys for money. You don't have to leave. Inshallah, Sunday after Maghrib, we're going to be holding a lecture with Sheikh Abdul Shire. Sunday after Maghrib, inshallah, we're going to be holding a lecture with Sheikh Abdul Shire. No, we're going to have coffee and donuts, not money for you, inshallah. Jazakumullah.
Not actually.